A couple discovers that they can duplicate organic things on their soil, while a hopeless romantic sees a chance to win the heart of his dream girl because of the appearance of their doubles. While Jack and Sally prepare dinner, their dog, Jackson, begins to whine at the door as he wants to go out into the backyard. Sally lets it out, then proceeds to continue preparing their meal. In the backyard, Jackson sniffs the patch of burned ground. After a few seconds, the dog is electrocuted and then vanishes into thin air. They hear the crackle of electricity, so Sally and Jack immediately go to check it out. They look to the roof, where they hear their dog but find two Jacksons. After fetching the two dogs from the roof, the couple figure that Jackson was duplicated because of whatever is in their soil. Curious about how it works, Jack throws his shoe inside. When nothing happens, he places a flower pot inside. Sally doubts it will work, but a few seconds later, lightning flashes. Jack climbs to the roof to see two flowers, and Sally looks astonished. That night, Sally can't sleep as she's thinking about the cloning soil and its possibilities. The following day, Jack sees his wife by the window, staring at the cloned flowers on the table. Later, he finds her rambling about how she's confirmed that the cloning soil can duplicate anything living or organic. Thus, she used it to clone foods such as eggplant, meat, and a chocolate cake. As she's about to eat one of the cakes, Jack tries to stop her, worrying that it could be poisonous. However, she takes a bite anyway, saying that it's fine. Jack thinks that they should tell someone, but Sally refuses to because the cloning soil might get taken away from them. Appalled by her behavior, Jack orders his wife to look in the mirror and reflect on the consequences. However, when she does, Sally is inspired by a different idea. Jack wakes up at night and hears that something broke in the kitchen. He gets up while Sally is still sleeping on the bed, then finds another Sally sweeping the broken glass in the kitchen. He later confronts the two Sallys. To confirm which one is real, he asks them where they went on their last date night. Both women simultaneously say the correct name of the restaurant, and even recount how Jack had an overcooked salmon that he had to send back. Pissed, Jack points out that what his wife did is messed up, and the two Sallys look at each other. In the morning, the original Sally prepares breakfast when she hears her husband and the clone Sally's muffled laughter in the bathroom. When she checks on them in the shower, she's hurt to find that her husband and the clone are having a good time. The man defends that they always shower together in the morning, but his real wife points out that it should be her whom he's with. Jealous, she storms off, and Jack follows her into the room, explaining that she and her clone share memories and experiences, making them the same person. He's also unsure which of them is the duplicate, but Sally insists that she's the original. To convince him, she kisses Jack while the other Sally looks on. That night, all three of them sleep on the same bed, with Jack in the center. The following day, both flowers are still alive and in full bloom. When Jack gets home, he walks into the living room to find the two Sallys laughing while watching TV. As soon as they see him, one of them asks for margaritas, so he goes to the kitchen to make them. That evening, Jack looks at photographs of him and his wife while pondering over their situation. He fears that the burnt ground and its duplicating properties have affected his relationship, so he grabs the cloned food from the fridge and puts it all in the garbage bag while one of his wives looks on with concern. When Jack sleeps on the side of the bed, he watches his two wives cuddle up to one another and begins to feel like an outsider in his own home. The next day, Jack stands on a stool while fixing the ceiling of their living room, unaware that one of his wives approaches. Moments later, Jack is dead, and the two Sallys stare at his body. They then look at each other to figure out what to do. Together, they cover his corpse and hide it inside a closet. As one of the flowers withers, one of the Jacksons becomes immobile too. The two Sallys notice the faulty faucet, and one remembers that Jack was supposed to fix it. While they nap on the table, the remaining Jackson enters the room and licks Sally's feet. The dog's action wakes her up, and she smiles with relief when she sees something. She gets up and grabs the flower that's still in bloom, leaving the withered one and her other unconscious self behind. The surviving Sally is relieved to still be alive, though this doesn't necessarily confirm if she's the real one or the duplicate. Elsewhere, Booker eats ice cream while listening to the radio. He hears about doubles who changed their faces to make them look less like their other selves. With a spoon still in his mouth, he finds a picture of himself with his crush, Vera, surprising him. Moments later, he hears the door open. Later, he walks to the restroom and notices two identical toothbrushes. Because he lives alone, he finds this peculiar. Worried he might be late for work, he decides to use mouthwash instead. At work, Booker is in the middle of a meeting when he glances at Vera in the room next door. He can't help but smile as he watches her, though she appears to be very bored. However, as soon as he spots the image of the woman with her boyfriend, Brian, he immediately looks away. While having breakfast the next day, Booker watches a video of a female scientist talking about parallel universes. She illustrates this with a turkey sandwich wherein the fourth dimension, represented by the mayonnaise, is merely a thin layer separating them as each slice is directly on top of one another. In another meeting, the company's vice president, Gary, gives positive give feedback on the group's project and goes through their agenda for the meeting. However, another Gary walks into the office, distracting the employees. After noticing that they are looking at him, the first Gary follows their gaze and discovers that his double is standing outside. The two approach each other, shocked to see their double selves. In his car, Booker and his colleague, Hugo, talk about the strange situation. Hugo wonders if the company will keep both Garys employed, though that can't be since the company can't have two vice presidents. Reflecting on their boss's situation, Booker shares about the program that discussed parallel universes and how it's collapsing. He points out that he now has two toothbrushes, and one of them probably belongs to his other self, who, as far as he knows, hasn't appeared yet. Booker wonders what the other version of him is like, and his friend believes the other him would be promiscuous. His friend disagrees and says most of his other selves would probably be sad or pathetic. Suddenly, Hugo's phone rings as his other version calls. Booker convinces his hesitant friend to answer the call, so Hugo goes outside to speak to his double. When Vera and Brian appear and head to their car, Booker watches them. The man follows them when they drive away, leaving Hugo behind. While driving, Booker hears the report of a worldwide crisis due to the unexplained phenomenon of doubles. There are also abnormal rains, but the reporter assures the public that it doesn't connect to the space-time anomaly. The anomaly has caused many reactions from those who meet their doubles, with some struggling and rioting while others are taking advantage of being able to take on more responsibilities. As the couple stops at a house, Booker parks across them, watching as they head inside. Later that night, he's talking to a customer service while watching TV. When the agent on the phone places him on hold, he sees a vision of his other self being intimate with a woman across the room. When the agent returns, the call suddenly gets disconnected. He checks the other room again and sees another version of himself getting action with his third self. Booker dismisses these visions and changes the channel on the TV. The program shows Paul, an expert on doubles, who claims that the strange appearance of clone individuals are unpredictable, just like how the original Paul woke up confused when he saw his other self. The next day, Booker awakens to the news that Brian has been arrested for homicide after killing his double, who was asleep with Vera. The reporter adds that this is another sad case of mistaken identity and the third double-related murder incident. Upon hearing his dream girl's name, Booker gets worried. Vera also doesn't arrive at work that day, concerning him further. During their break, Hugo and Booker discuss Brian and Vera's situation. The former heard that the original Brian was shocked about killing his other self, so Booker realizes it'll be challenging to have a double. Hugo affirms that the minds of the double and the original self are connected. He adds that even the court didn't know how to charge the case because the man killed his counterpart, not another person, so it's a loophole in the system. Booker then shares about last night when he saw visions of his double being intimate with a random woman and another version of himself. Hugo thinks this is interesting, but his buddy is embarrassed about it. He diverts Booker's attention to a broader horizon, such as multiple hells, and suggests that the situation would be difficult to accept if they were religious. Hugo then imagines the chaos ensuing if a parallel universe collides with hell. Later that night, Booker calls Vera, but her number is disconnected. The next day, Booker continues to worry about Vera, but Hugo reassures him that the woman is just recovering from the event. When Hugo sees Gary approaching, he attempts to escape, but the man orders him to do something. Hugo tries to get out of it by claiming that this version of Gary isn't his boss, so he walks out while the other man follows behind him. Booker then sees the other Gary with Vera and quickly returns to his chair. However, he overhears that she's another version of his crush, who's now taking over the original Vera's job. The boss then walks up to Booker and asks him to help the new Vera adjust to their environment. Seeing his chance, Booker walks up to Vera and asks her to lunch, and she agrees. During lunch, the man cannot tear his gaze away from the woman. Eventually, they reach the point where they're at ease with one another and start having fun at work. One night, Booker reveals to Hugo that he's in love with Vera, even though he has only been on 2 dates with her. When Hugo expresses his concern that his friend is moving too quickly, Booker reassures him that his feelings are real, as if it feels like he has known Vera for longer. To show his support, Hugo offers a toast to his friend's new relationship. After that, Booker and Vera pass the time in his car by playing word games. The two are just starting to get to know each other when suddenly the woman kisses him. On their way to Booker's house, they discuss 5 people they would like to spend dinner with while eating ice cream. They arrive at his house, only to find another Booker standing there with a spoon still in his mouth and a photo of them in his hand. The double Booker drops the cup of ice cream while the couple falls silent, as their night and lives have just turned awkward.